First, let me say that this board has already spent way too much time on this issue as it relates to what might have been or did not occur. The fact of the matter is that I did read some information out of the book, and I did flip the book in the air. And it did hit the table. Well, it didn't hit the table, as a matter of fact. It was Commissioner Forsman's briefcase and floated back to me. The truth of the matter is, I could have put it in Commissioner Sweety's lap, but it was not intended for that. It was intended to be in the middle of the table so that others could look at something that I'm sure no one on the board had read. No one that was in the meeting. Because it came out of the book that was just sent out to us, and I've been carrying it around because I've been reading it myself. I tried twice to apologize to Commissioner Sweeney. Once at lunchtime, and once right in the next morning. And I didn't need to be prompted to do that. And in starting each of those conversations, Commissioner Sweeney showed me a cold shoulder and moved on. Regardless of what the words were that we said, the truth of the matter is that if I wanted to hit anybody with a book on this board, either right-handed or left-handed, I could do it. But that's not the point. The point here is this. That Commissioner Sweeney accomplished what she intended to accomplish by having this conversation today. 2 or 3 times during the last week, we have both been called about whether or not there was an incident and whether it should be in the newspaper or whether it should be on television. And apparently from the research that was done, neither entity decided that that was good or bad. And they didn't bother to deal with it at all. But look around the room. There are 2 reporters and they are writing. Commissioner Sweeney should be congratulated. After a week, she's accomplished what she intended to accomplish in the first place. But here's the issue. The issue is perception. The newspaper believes, the radio station believes, and a few people who are sitting here following us believes that this board is somewhat dysfunctional, and they intend to make sure that that's the way it is. It is not. What creates dysfunction is when one or two of us believe that we're different and more right than someone else. And no matter what the majority says on the board at that particular day, and no matter who's part of that majority, when one of the persons who voted against something or found something not to be acceptable and goes off and says, I'm more right than you are and I'm going to change that, that's when dysfunction occurs. I apologize, Commissioner Sweeney, for whatever you think happened to that board meeting. But I know what was intended, and so do you. And I'm sorry that you had even considered the possibility that both might have been tossed in your direction. In fact, I recall shortly after you had an opportunity to get the floor, and you responded by saying, as Commissioner Forsman was passing the book across to you so that you could look at it, which, by the way, you never did, you said, well, I don't appreciate having a book thrown at me. Well, that would have been true if I would have thrown the book at you. But I didn't. I put it in the middle of the table, and you know what? I missed. It didn't quite get there because of Commissioner Forsman's briefcase. It is inappropriate to have behavior that is somewhat questionable, and I know that. And it was the reason that I intended to apologize to you in the first place. But it is even more inappropriate for this board to spend hour after hour after hour looking at itself and trying to figure out how to defend an action that had no intentions of being anything more than a continuation of a portion of a conversation, and expect that each other board member would show the same respect of them that was given to the individual, because each of us are elected by 28,000 different people. And to that extent, I need to recognize Commissioner Sweeney as being important on the board, just like I need to look at Commissioner Forsman, because their population sent us to them. But that means that you have to do it as well. And that means also there has to be tolerance. And that seems to be the challenge today. It is not that we don't respect each other, but it is that there is little or no tolerance, and it has been that way since the beginning of the year. By the end of this year, we are not going to have resolved, unfortunately, every issue. But I think the one point that Commissioner Nelson made that I thought was important is that the good news is we are still working on the budget, and it is one of the best. And that is because we've tried to keep whatever those challenges are that face us out of staff and the rest of the folks. And we'll get through this, folks. We'll get through this. But tolerance will be important. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner